My dear Muslim brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. To our respected guests, and to all of those individuals who have yet to understand and to consider the great system of Islam, we say, peace be upon those who follow the guidance. I understand that it is my responsibility and challenge to offer a proposition on the true success of life. And in doing so, I want to highlight the principle that God must necessarily exist. And also, after highlighting the proposition that God must necessarily exist, then what is his message to his creatures? Now that theme, we have to connect it to the greater proposition, what is the true success in life? So keep that in mind as we proceed. Now I am prepared to discharge my responsibility to offer a proposition this evening. However, you as an audience also have a responsibility. And your responsibility is to be reasonably open-minded and open-hearted. Open-minded and open-hearted in your consideration of my proposition. Now you would agree, all of us would agree, that if a glass were turned upside down, it could not be filled. Therefore, each of us should turn the glass of our consciousness, the glass of our mental disposition, right side up. In a world filled with prejudice and preconditioning, it is sometimes very difficult to accept things or ideas that we had not been previously exposed to, or from persons that we have generally been alienated from. Tonight, I want you to relax, chill, open your mind, open your heart to the idea of success. Ask yourself, what is real success? Who would I be if I were successful? And what would I have if I were successful? Ask yourself, do I know any successful people? What is the meaning of success? How do we measure success? Who and what are our role models for success? I asked myself those questions, and I asked others I came in contact with throughout my life. And I arrived at the same general conclusions as most people. Conclusions produced by education, social exposure, the impact of media, and then by my own personal aspirations and impressions about life. For instance, when I read the definition of success in the Oxford University Press, when I considered that, I want to share that with you. This is what the Oxford University Press, this is what they say that success means. Success is the accomplishment of aims and purposes. Success is the attainment of fame, wealth, and social status. Now that's what Oxford University Press, that's what they say that success is. Now I want to ask all of you here, because I want to make sure that all of us are in sync. Are all of you seeking happiness and success in life? Can I get a show of hands that everybody who would like to have happiness and success in life? Nearly everybody wants happiness and success. Some people not so sure. Would you like to have tranquility, self-contentment, confidence, peace, security? Would you like to have that? If so, welcome to the club. Everyone in the world, in one way or the other, when they're asked about success or happiness, this is what they say, this is what they want. This is what we have been striving for all of our lives, kicking and scraping and hoping and wishing and fighting and cheating and lying and stealing and conniving and everything that we're trying to do, somehow or another, we're relating it to, inevitably, success. Believers and disbelievers, the righteous and the evildoers, every single one of them is after happiness and success. Even when you ask someone down the street or up the street, getting high, as they call it, if you ask them why they're taking drugs, why they're drinking, why they're fornicating, committing adultery, if you ask them why, inevitably they're going to tell you, it makes me feel good, at least for a moment. It doesn't matter what the final results are, just so long as somehow or another there's a click in our minds that it somehow relates to even temporary happiness or success. Unfortunately, most people take the wrong path towards happiness and success. Although everyone is after happiness, the masses of people, like animals, take the wrong path. And it is only a handful of people that take the time to think and to reflect and to seek inspiration to determine the correct path towards happiness. Now, I was always led to believe that if I had a good education, that would guarantee a good job and subsequently good status in society. That's what I was told. This led me to conclude that those persons with the highest levels of education, such as doctors, lawyers, architects, etc., they must prospectively be the most successful people in life. Then I realized that in fact these persons whom I would consider to be the most successful people in life, the doctors, the lawyers, the architects, the film stars, the athletes, the musicians, the gangsters, and the criminals. As a matter of fact, I realized that these people, possessed with education or not, these people holding the acquisition of things in their hands, all the toys of life, these people holding in their hands the influence of the masses of people all over the world, these people having the highest standard of worldly attainment. Of course, to most of us, this itself should somewhat signify a semblance of success. But let us see to what extent. In fact, statistics indicate that the greatest number of suicides, divorces, personal tragedy exists among the rich and the famous. In spite of their perceived status, they are lonely, most of them, and they die lonely, most of them. They are frustrated, most of them, and they die frustrated. Most of them are addicted to drugs, alcohol, and other things. Most of them are experiencing many psychological disorders, unable to retain simple relationships, hardly knowing who their real friends are, and usually dying pathetic and alone. Now, these are what you and I would, and most people would consider to be the most successful human beings in the world. Let me share with you a statistic from the World Health Organization. Did you know that suicide is among the 3 leading causes of death in the Western developed world? I said the Western developed world, where the semblance and the trappings of success are the most preeminent. The World Health Organization estimated that in the year 2000, approximately 1 million people, that is, in the Western Hemisphere, would have died from suicide. That means 16 people out of every 1,000 people choose to take their own lives, while it would appear that they're living among a civilization that has the highest standard of living. So why are 16 out of 1,000 people taking their own lives, feeling to themselves, meeting a point in their lives where they cannot see any value in living? That's tragic. That's pathetic. That's a profound statistic. One death every 40 seconds. Every 40 seconds, a person in the Western Hemisphere is cutting their throat, jumping off a bridge, taking some pills, cutting their wrists, blowing their brains out, or doing something else to end their life. And these are the most educated people in the world. The World Health Organization further states that in the last 45 years, suicide rates have increased 60% worldwide. That means the more sophisticated and the more educated that we become, the more inclined we are to take our lives or to take someone else's. Now, one may think, or one would think to themselves, that when we consider the poverty, the disease, the social destabilization in the so-called undeveloped countries, we would think that those people in those countries would be committing suicide, but that is not the case. Those people seem to be able to deal with their situations, but they're not educated and they're not sophisticated. As a matter of fact, in the poverty-stricken countries that have the lowest living standard, statistics actually reveal that they have the lowest rate of suicide. As a matter of fact, in the countries where people are considered to be heathens, terrorists, fanatics, extremists, inhuman, the only suicide that is done in those countries is people who call themselves, or who are called, suicide bombers. And then we find out that they themselves didn't call themselves suicide bombers, they called themselves martyrs. As a matter of fact, in the Muslim world in particular, and I'm proud of this statistic, the rate of suicide in the Muslim countries is less than 0.5% out of 100,000. Because for most Muslims, and I would almost venture to say almost every Muslim, suicide is never, ever an option. Because from the very beginning, we understand that life doesn't belong to us. And we understand that success is not in the things that you possess or what other people think of you. But success is in gratitude. Success is in acknowledgement. Success is in the contentment of knowing who you are, why you're here, and what your purpose in life is. And if a person begins by having this acknowledgement, and throughout their life they are cultivating this acknowledgement, then they're never inclined towards despair, and they're never inclined towards suicide. I ask you, brothers and sisters here, do the things that people acquire give them satisfaction and peace of mind? Does the influence over people grant them contentment and fulfillment? The answer is emphatically no. Kings, queens, rulers, and heads of states all have possessions. All of them have power over their subjects and their citizens, but they do not lead lives of contentment, satisfaction, peace of mind, and fulfillment. On the contrary, their lives are a combination of daily stress, struggle to maintain their status, preoccupation and anticipation of war, inside their countries or outside their countries. Hardly any one of them throughout history, hardly any one of the kings, the queens, the rulers, the heads of states, hardly any one of them throughout history has left a legacy or a conduct as a role model and a human evidence of success. We only have to turn to the lives of the rich and famous in the past, in the present, and see that they do not give us an inspiration towards success. I ask you, why is it that things and status do not grant us success or satisfaction as the Oxford University Press seems to give the definition of? It is because the human being has 5 parts to his or her existence. And each part of our existence must be given adequate nourishment. It must be given adequate development for satisfaction and for balance. The human being has 5 parts to their being, you and I. The human being has a soul. The soul is the spirit, the essence, the unseen part of the human being that seeks out abstract values. The soul is that part of the human being that has the need for worship, inner sanctity, that strives to understand and to reach out to embrace the purpose of life, the soul. The human being has a mind. Unlike other animals that are more powerful than we are, it is our mind, it is the human mind that gives them the superiority among other creatures. For if it were not for our minds, elephants would put us in zoos. Lions and tigers and baboons would put us in zoos because they are more powerful than we are, but they cannot think and they cannot calculate and they cannot manipulate because we have been given intelligence. The mind of the human being is the source of intelligence, always seeking to know, to acquire the means to compute, to communicate, to extend through the mind and to dominate through the mind, and also always seeking answers. Then there's the heart. A wise man, a man of scripture, a man of guidance, a prophet and a messenger of Almighty God, he said to us about the heart, verily, there's a piece of flesh in the body. When it is sound and clean, the whole body is sound and clean. When it is corrupted, the whole body is corrupted. Verily, that piece of flesh is the heart. The heart, the organ of love, emotion, and passion. The heart, where feelings generate, where principles of loyalty, friendship, commitment, and sacrifice, all of that emanates from the heart. And then there's the self, the ego, the me, the I, the my, the source of all wanting to possess, always wanting to possess everything, everybody, everywhere, the self. The self is what overflows through greed, through avarice, through envy and jealousy, all the way until disease and death. The self always trying to fulfill itself and not caring about any other self. And finally, the lowest form of the human being that most humans seem to never evolve beyond, and that is the body. The body. The body that eats and drinks and sleeps, that smells and tastes, sees, hears, touches. The body that houses the whole person but cannot fulfill the other components. The body can never fulfill the soul. The body can never fulfill the mind. The body can never fulfill the heart's desires. The body can never contain the self. The body only houses the rest of the person. But most of us, we live all of our lives only feeding the body. The body is the lowest form of the person, but is perceived by most to be the most critical and the most valuable. And this is why the hedonists, the materialists, and the pleasure seekers, they can never seem to arrive at anything more than the satisfaction of the body. And that's why everybody seems to live for Friday night. They work like dogs, like animals, stealing, scheming, doing everything, working their hearts out, working double jobs to own a car, a house, to buy clothes, to go to fancy restaurants, to lay down with an ugly or a pretty woman, or a bald-headed or a crippled man. Doesn't matter. Just lay down with something or someone. The body. And we go through life from Friday to Friday, Friday to Friday, until the year's out. And another year's out. And the next thing we know, we have lived 50 or 60 years of that kind of living. And what do we have? Absolutely nothing that resembles happiness or success. The human being, unlike other animals, is in need of enlightenment. The human being is in need of inspiration. The human being is in need of guidance. The human being is in need of spiritual awareness. The body is like a vehicle that houses the passengers and protects them from the elements and delivers them to their intended destination. The self is like the driver who holds the wheel and makes the determination to turn, to brake, to accelerate, or to stop. The mind is the navigator who reminds, who calculates about the distance, the fuel, the direction, the destination, the environment, and coordinates all the dynamics for the driver. The heart is the generator, the source of energy. The heart is what keeps all the passengers engaged, entertained, inspired. The heart is what keeps all the passengers of the body connected to their purpose of their journey. But the soul is the real purpose of the journey. The soul is always telling the other passengers about the real purpose of the journey. And sometimes we don't want to hear what the soul has to say. The soul is reminding us when we're young about containing our youth. We don't want to hear that. The soul is reminding us when we're old about our youth, but we don't want to hear that. The soul is reminding us when we are well, when we're healthy, when we're strong. The soul is reminding us to be grateful, but we don't want to hear that. When we're ill, when we're sick, the soul is reminding us of the health that we used to have, but we don't want to hear that. The soul is reminding us about death. While you're living, the soul is always knocking at the door and telling you and I that death is inevitable. Tomorrow, one morrow, one next day will be your day. The soul is telling us this, but we don't want to listen. The soul is the conscience, which reminds and drives the passengers. The soul is always irritating us, telling us about its origin, telling us about where it's going to wind up at, always trying to tell us to distinguish the difference between real and unreal. The soul is the supernatural self, which is connected to the unseen elements. The unseen elements of birth, the unseen elements of dreams, the unseen elements of vision, and inevitably the unseen element of death. The soul is that which enters the body and becomes the person. At a certain point, when the child is conceived, it is at one point just a piece of flesh, or at one point it is just a sperm drop connected to an egg, just a clot. At another point, it becomes a fetus. At another point, it becomes an embryo. At a certain point, the soul enters and it becomes an actual person. And we are told that when a child is in the womb of the mother, at 14 weeks, it is a complete person. The heart is beating. Its fingerprints are there. Its mind, its brain is operating. Its little lungs are operating and breathing. All of its fingers and toes have been formed. And just by the way, just so that you know this figure, in the Western Hemisphere, that is United States of America, Canada, the UK and Europe and Australia, 2,300 little children, little people are murdered every single day. It's called abortion, the easy way out. Can you imagine that? In an educated, sophisticated world bent upon success, they are murdering 2,350 little people every single day. Now you divide that by the hour. It means that more than 105 little babies are being slaughtered, aborted every hour. So by the time we finish sitting here, by the time we finish our lecture here in the Western Hemisphere, where people are sophisticated, wealthy, stable, educated, about 250 or 350 little people would have been murdered. But they call that abortion. We call that family planning, a real nice word. I don't know how you plan families by killing them. That's another subject that we really need to talk about, because I don't know how women, how they live the rest of their lives knowing that they kill the average young lady in the West who is unprincipled, unbridled, unconnected, and without guidance. The average lady in the West, in the course of 20 years, she kills at least 3. Now, how she lives with that behind all of her makeup and mascara, I don't know. But Khalid and Rubenstein and Max Factor, they came up with a formula for that. Do you know what it is? Well, they take those little babies that they kill, they liquidate them, and they put them into makeup, so now you can kill a baby and wear it on your face. That's economics. The soul is that which enters the body and becomes the person. And the soul is that which leaves the body, so that person is then pronounced dead. And that's when that person loses all their friends, loses all their family, loses all their wealth, and loses all their connection with the world that they worked for all their lives. And guess what? No matter how much that body was loved, in about 2 hours, the loved one's gonna get that body out of the house. Because after the soul leaves, that body begins to smell. The soul is the record of you and I. The soul is that everlasting evidence of you and I. Dear brothers and sisters, bear with me. We're halfway through. True satisfaction and contentment can be realized only when the soul is nourished, only when the soul is stabilized. We know how we feel in the morning of an important occasion. When you have a test, when you have an important appointment, when you have that critical interview, the opening of a special project, you know how you feel. If you are well prepared, you feel rested and you feel confident. We emanate that confidence. We have the resonance of confidence, and everyone that's around us can feel it. On the other hand, if we're not prepared, or if we're tired, frustrated, and confused, we will not be confident. And we will also emanate that frustration and that lack of confidence to others. Human beings can only be successful if they seek the contentment and the satisfaction of the soul, which in turn will provide them with a healthy, well-balanced outlook on life and a reasonable understanding of their own purpose, of their own purpose in life. Now, this purpose of life has many proofs and many indicators. This purpose in life has historical evidences and illustrations. Now, such an important aspect of our lives is not without a manual. There has to be a manual for life. For everything that you and I possess, all the toys, all the sophisticated instruments that we use in our life, everything has a manual. If you buy a new watch, it comes with a manual. If you buy a new car, it comes with a manual. Thank you, brother. If you buy a new house, it comes with a manual. If you buy a new computer, it comes with a manual. If you get a new wife or husband, it comes with a manual. Sometimes there's some hidden clauses, but it comes with a manual. Not only do all the things that we use in life come with a manual, but we expect it. And not only do we expect a manual, but we look also for a warranty. So with everything that's valuable to us in life, we look for a manual. We look for a warranty. We look for a technician to explain to us or to work out the problem, to troubleshoot for us, or to guide us through that situation. And we look always in life for human examples. We look for clear and irrefutable signs that tell us that we're on the right way. That life and whatever exists, I said that life and whatever exists must have a source, must have an origin. It must have a designer, an intelligence which coordinates, maintains, determines, and ultimately controls. Something as simple as water. Something as simple as water has to have a source. And you and I, our beginning, part of our physical, biological beginning is water. Sperm is water. The human being, the composition of the body is water. Our atmosphere, our stratosphere, our environment is mostly made of water. That's the source, that's the origin. And the Quran, a sacred scripture revealed almost 1,500 years ago, said, and verily, we have created every living thing from water. And although this scripture is not a book of science, that is a scientific fact. And now we have discovered that in a drop of water, all the elements of life are present in a drop of water. Something so simple. Either you got it or you don't. The most valuable element in life that has all the elements in it, that if you don't have it, you die, and if you do, you're blessed. Water. I say to you that even water has a source, and even water has been designed. The microscopic biological breakdown of water has intelligence behind it. An intelligence that coordinates life to come from it, that maintains life in it, that determines and ultimately controls the balance of life from which it comes. You and I would have to agree that that phenomena could not have come about by itself. It has to have an originator. It is the source of all living things in the world that we call existence. That supreme intelligence must be the source of all creation. That supreme intelligence must be the legislator, must be the sovereign, must be the ruler, and ultimately must be the judge. Call it God, call it the Most High, call it the Most Merciful, call it the Creator, call it the source, call it the power, call it the energy, call it what you want. That source is the benefactor, and you and I and everything else that exists, we are the beneficiaries. And if we just consider ourselves as beneficiaries of this magnificent creation, we should be thankful and we should be grateful for our lives, for the gifts of our senses, which we could not purchase and which we could not have otherwise obtained. So let me find out how many intelligent, endowed, sophisticated human beings that are here who want to say that they have created themselves. Does anybody want to take a stab at that? Anybody want to stand up and say, I created myself? I am self-endowed. I am my own benefactor, as well, I am the benefactor of all those who are here. Not the atheist, not the agnostic, not the communist, not the socialist, not the Baptist, not the Catholic, not the Protestant, not the Muslim, not the Buddhist, not the Hindu, not the male, not the female, not the old nor the young, nor the rich or the poor. No one would say that, because that would be the most absurd thing to say. And no one of us would be willing to give up any one of our senses in exchange for possessions. No one would give up their sense of smell for 100,000 pounds. No one would give up their sense of taste for 100,000 pounds or $1 million. No one would give up their sight to their mother or their daughter. No one would give up their sense of touch. No one would give their heart in exchange for some money. No one would give up their kidneys. Not both of them anyway. If each of us were offered employment with a new company, think about this for a minute. Think that this brother, he came here tonight representing this new company, just came out of America. Just let's think about that for a minute. I just arrived here and I'm promoting this new company. It's called Live As You Like. That's the new company. Live as you like, and live as long as you want to, and have everything that you ever wanted in life working for my new company. And go on the stock market and look and see, you'll find out that our assets are in the billions. So everybody will feel comfortable that if you work for me, you're going to get paid. So let's see what the terms are. If each of us were offered employment with this new company, which had billions of dollars of assets, and that company had very basic employment requirements, it was prepared to hire everyone in this room tonight, right now, and your pay will begin. As soon as you walk out, checks will be issued. Sounds like a good company, right? Let's talk about that company. What are the requirements? And what are the job expectations? One, we're paying 1,000 pounds a week. That's the start. With bonuses if you're good employees. One of the good things about this company is that you work at home. You don't have to get up and go to work. Isn't that beautiful? No taxes taken out of your pay. We take care of all of that for you. No direct supervision. It's an honor system. And only 3 or 4 employment policies and conditions. How many people here would think that so far this sounds like a pretty nice company? How many people think about that? I would. Sound like a pretty good company? You think there's a trick to it, right? There's no trick to it. Let me tell you what the conditions are. The conditions for employment in this company is to be clean, decent, and honest. That's the first thing you're going to be asked. Are you clean? Will you be clean? Will you be decent? Will you be honest? What would you say? What would you say? Yeah, you're damn right. That's what most of you would say. You'd say it just like that in your own mind. You wouldn't say that to the employer. You'd say that in your mind. Yeah, you're right. Of course I would be. At least, I'm home. Of course I'm going to be clean. Of course I'm going to be decent. Of course I'm going to be honest. I got no direct supervision. I don't have to go nowhere. I don't have to get dressed. I don't have to get in a car. I don't have to be in traffic. And I got paid on the way out of the place with no job application. Of course I'll be clean, decent, and honest. And if I'm not, I'll learn how to be clean, decent, and honest. What's the second condition? The second condition is that you must read and understand the company manual. A very simple manual. And you must be willing to follow the company representative and comply with the basic behavior and ethics that shows your loyalty to the company. The company does not produce any products. So you don't have to worry about waking up, setting up, producing something, mailing something, packing something, nothing. No. The company just wants clean, decent, honest people that understand the company very well, that read the manual of the company so it can remind others about this company. That's the kind of people that we want to hire. The company wants, in return for giving you all of these benefits, I didn't even tell you about the vacations. You get a 30-day paid vacation every 90 days. Hospital, education, housing, all paid for. And every time you have a baby, legitimately, that is, you got to be legitimate baby, you got to be legitimate baby makers now. We add those on to the budget and you get more money. So how many people want to be married and have babies with that company? Let's keep talking about this company. It's a beautiful company. Now what this company wants its employees to do, to show their gratitude, to show their loyalty, we want you to stop whatever it is that you're doing in the course of the day, because all you're really doing all day long is what? You're just relaxing. You're eating good food, you're spending that 1,000 pounds a week, you're relaxing, you're watching television, mowing the lawn, sitting out, drinking lemonade, waving at the neighbors. Everybody's stuck in traffic and you're at home collecting money. Everybody's asking you what's going on. You're telling them, man, you better get with this company. Now with all this relaxation, all these bonuses and all these benefits that you're getting, what does the company want? The company wants you and I to stop several times a day, 3, 4, 5 times, to think about the benefactor of the company. Now you never see the benefactor. All you know is that he is the one. He's behind all of this. He's the one that signs the checks. He's the one that makes it happen. He's the one that gives you the comfort that you need. And so several times a day, the only thing we want you to do is to stop and think about the benefactor of this company. And then, with a toll-free card that we give you, we want you to dial a number and call up the company headquarters. You dial that number and call up the company headquarters and say, this is Khalid, I'm employee number 172, and I'm very grateful. I'm just calling in to check in and let you know that I'm thinking about the benefactor and about the company. I just love it. All my children love it. We had some more children we want to add to the budget. I love everything that's going on. And after calling in, it's recorded. My gratitude, my loyalty, my commitment to the company is registered on a daily basis. Now, do you think that would be too much to ask? Tell me the truth. If there was such a company, would that be too much to ask for you? Also, the company wants you not only to be self-concerned, the company wants you to be a good neighbor. The company wants you to live in harmony with other people. The company wants you to set a good human example. The company wants you to establish good family ethics. The company wants you to show your neighbors how decent of a person that you are. The company wants you to interact at times with the other co-workers of the company, persons of all backgrounds. The company also wants you to be the kind of person that when people pass by your house and they ask you for something to drink, for something to eat, because they don't have a job like yours, the company wants you to be generous. The company wants you and I to sincerely work to realize and to bring into fruition peaceful coexistence with all human beings. And finally, the company wants you to prepare yourself, to always remain prepared for an unexpected examination. That means at any time, the company representative could come to check your house. The company representative would come at any time to check you, to check your accounts, to balance things. The company could come at any time and put your commitment on the line. Therefore, the company wants you to have things in order at all times. And that's what the company is spending this money, investing this in you, for you to be a model employee. The company wants you and I to prepare and expect a period of examination, a period of reconciliation, a balancing of accounts of our performance and our behavior in order to determine the renewal and the extension of our contract. If the benefactor is pleased, you'll get more bonuses. And even if you die, the most beautiful thing about this contract, that the benefactor is going to extend your life and make sure that the family that you leave behind, that they are continued in the same status that you had. Now, isn't this a beautiful company? Isn't that a beautiful deal? It takes care of you here and hereafter. How many people would work for that company? Tell me the truth. Most of you. No tricks to it. No curve at the end of the road. No other conditions involved. Well, what I talk to you about is a metaphor, a facsimile, a proposition. But in fact, what I've talked to you about is a reality. You have been given more than what I just spoke about. In fact, none of you have yet paid rent on any of the houses that you have. Your body is the house that you were given. Your senses are the passengers in it and the furniture in it. And let me see if any of you have paid rent on your house. Have you paid rent? Nobody has paid any rent. But all the gifts that you've been given, your life and your senses and your sight, your gift of breathing, your children and your homes, your health, your wealth, your status. You've been given all these things by a benefactor and you've paid nothing for it. And it's all happening without you even asking for it. And yes, there will be an examination, and yes, there will be a hereafter. Would these requests be unreasonable for the benefactor of such a company to ask you and I for? I don't think so. And is this a reasonable proposition towards personal and social success? Essentially, this is the very formula of success in life. Being grateful as a human being and a beneficiary. Being decent, law-abiding, and honest. Stopping to thank, to acknowledge, and worship. Living in harmony with others, with responsibility and dignity. To have consciousness, to have morality. Towards our existence in preparation of death. This is the proposition of life. And this is the formula of success. Now you may ask, why is it necessary to recognize or to worship a creator or to know and submit to God at all? How psychologically important is it for an individual, you and I, to know our parents? Well, psychologists will tell you that it's very critical for the human being to know their parents. Even if they were raised as an orphan and they were given everything, all the status, education, and all the benefits of life, that person will still, all of their lives, they will always want to know who are their parents. How critical is it for the individual to understand their past and to plan for their future? How important is it for children to show respect and gratitude for their parents? How many parents would appreciate their children if their children grew up and spit in their faces and disrespected them and disobeyed them and disregarded all the values that they gave them, would they still love their children? How important is it and how critical is it for citizens of a country to have loyalty and honor for their country? All of you would agree that all of this is necessary. Certainly, human beings would all agree that we are all dependent, and no one is able to create themselves, and no one is able to acquire their basic needs by themselves. Human beings rely upon other human beings just to acquire their basic needs. As a matter of fact, it's come to be known that human beings need other human beings to such an extent that if a human being was given everything, but they were put in a room and a big house that they owned, sitting on 1,000 acres of land, with all the things around them that other human beings have, but they had no other human beings to talk to, do you know what would happen? Eventually that person would fall into depression, and inevitably that person would go crazy, and inevitably that person would die, simply because humans need other humans just for social interaction. Therefore, it is quite reasonable to consider the obligation of acknowledging, giving thanks, and worshiping the creator of this universe. How psychologically important is it for you and I to show our gratitude for our benefactor? How important it must be to our overall success and satisfaction in life to add this dimension, gratitude, to our consciousness, to help us in our ability to conceptualize our Creator and to be aware of the attributes of that Creator. I want you to reflect upon one of the verses of the sacred scripture of the Quran that says, Allahu, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Allahu, la ilaha illa huwal hayyul qayyum, is the life giver, the self-sustainer, the eternal, and the only absolute. لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم. He requires, that benefactor, that creator requires no rest, and nor does that benefactor require any kind of sleep, because fatigue does not affect that creator. له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض. Everything in the heavens and the earth, whether it is seen, whether it is unseen, subtle, evident, high, low, microscopic, in the heavens or the earth, inside or outside, it all belongs to that creator. من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه. So who is it? Who is it among the creatures? Who is it among the creatures, the men or the jinn or the angels or the animals? Who is it that can contend with that benefactor and that creator? Who is it that can achieve anything without his permission? يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم. He knows what goes in front of them in their lives, their history, and he knows what follows them in their posterity and their history. He knows completely because their lives are within the capsule of his knowledge. وَلَا يُحِيطُونَ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنْ عِلْمِهِ إِلَّا بِمَا شَاءَ. And they will never, the creatures, the human beings with intelligence, they will never be able to snatch or harbor or harness any knowledge from him other than what he allows them to do so. وَسِعَ كُرْسِيُّهُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. His throne, according to his majesty, extends above the heavens and the earth, above the waters, above the galaxies, outside the realm of time and space. وَلَا يَعُودُهُ حِفْظُهُمَا وَهُوَ الْعَلِيُّ الْعَظِيمُ. And he does not suffer any fatigue. Nothing is taken from him. If he gives the whole world what it asks for, it doesn't decrease any of his wealth. And sustaining the heavens and the earth doesn't require any effort because he owns it and he sustains it by his will. And he is Aliyul Azim. He is the high, he's the mighty, he's the powerful, he's the sovereign, he's the owner, he's the ruler, he's the Lord, he's the creator. Do you know anybody else that you can describe that way? You know some nations, you know some tribes, you know some kings, some presidents, some companies, some individuals, your father, your uncle, some heroes. Do you know somebody that has that description? No, you don't. Of course you don't. And a shorter version says, say, he, Allah, the Creator, is absolutely one. He whom all depends, while he depends upon none. He begets not. He does not give birth to anyone. Like a woman giving birth or a man making a woman pregnant, he does not beget. He is not in the world giving birth to anyone. And he is not begotten. He did not come out of the womb like the world or a baby or being evolved. He does not beget, nor is he begotten, for he is the Lord of the heavens and the earth. And high is he above begetting, being begotten, having sons and daughters and issues. وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. And there is nothing inside the creation, whether small or great, that has any significance or has any similarity unto him, according to his majesty. Dear respected listeners, all of this is for your reflection, and all of this is for your inspiration towards adopting an attitude and a mindset that will complement you towards a successful life and an anticipation of death where there will be dignity. Death which is definite, but a death with dignity.